Hi guys, this is my 2-year no contact video. I promised this to you guys about a month ago, and it was about a month ago that I actually hit the milestone of 2 years no contact. And in this video, we're going to talk about that today, about my specific experience, how I got to 2 years no contact, and what that means to me, and what you guys can look forward to when you hit that milestone as well. My name is Amy, and this is Narcaway. My channel is devoted to encouraging, supporting, and educating victims and survivors of narcissistic abuse. If you have been here before, welcome back. If you're new to my channel, welcome. So I'm going to link right off the hop right here my 1-year no contact video. I made it when I hit the 1-year mark, and it was a huge milestone. I couldn't have imagined when I first went no contact what being 1 year no contact would be like. And now I'm 2 years, and let me tell you, this second year has flown by. I can't even believe that it's been 2 years since I have seen, talked to, heard from my ex. And it's a new day. It's a new life. It's a new mentality, and it is all good. It is all for the better. I am a product of how and why no contact works. And if we rewind a little bit and we go back to when I first made the decision to go no contact with somebody I was engaged to, somebody I was with for 10 years of my life, somebody that I loved truly, and I loved deeply. But I knew that they were not good for me. I knew the relationship was emotionally and verbally abusive. I knew that it was getting worse. I knew I was unhappy, and I knew our future didn't look good. It didn't look good for me as an individual. It didn't look good for us as a couple. And I knew it had run its course. And I was the one to make the decision to leave that relationship based on my unhappiness and just the future, the way it looked. It didn't look good. So when I first went no contact, it was not easy. Despite me being the one to make the decision, despite me seeing that things were not looking good, that didn't make it easy to leave him. I was in love with him when I left. And I knew to save myself, I had to end the relationship. And I knew in order to end the relationship, I had to go no contact. And it was hard. Those first few months after leaving and being no contact were extremely difficult. And the tools that I used during that time were therapy, group therapy, my family, and my very closest friends for support. I did lose and let go of a lot of friends and close friends at that when I left my ex, just because it was really the only way to go true no contact. So I lost a big part of my support system. But I did still have close friends that maybe I forgot were there, that I reached out to. And because they were true friends, they were there for me when I needed them. I sought therapy, individual therapy. I also sought group therapy specifically for women coming out of abusive relationships. And abusive being emotional abuse, verbal abuse, narcissistic abuse, even physical abuse. So having that community of women specifically that had gone through something that I had gone through was so comforting and so helpful in my recovery process. If you live in a city that offers any counseling services with a group therapy setting, I highly recommend taking part in that. It was instrumental in my healing. It helped to validate so many of the feelings and the thoughts and the questions that I had. So that is really how I got through those first few months that were definitely the hardest. And once I started understanding and accepting that the relationship really was over, that there was no going back, that's when the true healing started. That's when I could really start understanding and reflecting on the relationship, what my accountability was, where my faults were, and what I could do going forward to take responsibility and mend those holes which allowed me to fall into an abusive relationship. And specifically, that is setting boundaries. I had poor boundaries, which allowed somebody in that did not have the best intentions. And once I realized that, then I could start understanding why I had these weak boundaries and how I could strengthen them going forward. So what does 2 years after leaving an abusive relationship look like? Well, there's a lot of peace. The one thing that I have that I never had when I was with my ex was peace. I can relax. I am a much more calm person. I am a much happier person. My joy, I'm not afraid of being happy like I was before, because I was always afraid if I showed too much happiness and joy, that would trigger him to abuse me, to give me the silent treatment, to yell at me, to call me names, to put me down, to belittle me, anything to trigger me to steal that joy and happiness away. And I lived in fear, walking on eggshells all the time of that happening. That's gone. The walking on eggshells is gone. I can be happy and confidently so, not worrying about somebody else trying to steal that from me. And if there is somebody else in my life that does try to do that, I spot that and I don't let that happen. That's a them issue, not a me issue. If my happiness, if my joy, if my personality, if my attitude offends someone else, whereas before I was such a people pleaser and I was so concerned that I would change myself to make them comfortable, I don't do that anymore. I am me. I live my life the way I want to live it. And if that makes someone else uncomfortable, that's their issue that they need to process and deal with. It is not my responsibility to make them comfortable. Obviously, you have to live your life with respect for other people, which I do. And I'm very empathetic and I'm very aware of how my behaviors affect other people. But if I'm not doing anything wrong, if I am not treading on somebody else's boundaries, I have no reason to apologize or to change my behavior at all. And that is a clear boundary that I'm setting to let other people know that I'm me, I embrace me, I love me, and that's up to you whether you want to be a part of my inner circle, my life, my world. If you don't want to be, that's fine. You can excuse yourself. And I have learned how to let that happen, to be okay with somebody excusing themselves from my life if it doesn't fit their agenda. It comes back to that saying, if you love something, let it go. And if it was meant to be, it'll come back. It's really true. Be yourself, be honest. And the people that leave and don't come back, those are the people you don't want to come back. The people that do come back, they're your people. Those are your people, the ones that stick around and are with the real you, because then you don't have to walk on eggshells. You get to be the real you. And all of these things are discovered, and really I've been able to acknowledge and embrace only after all of this time has passed and I have been away from somebody trying to keep me down. Somebody trying to keep me down mentally, emotionally, even physically. When you get away from your abuse, you have a lot of steps to go through. Healing is a huge part of it. Accepting and acknowledging and understanding is huge. And you have to go through all of that before you can even start to thrive and start to build upon what you've learned. You have to just go a straight line of feeling normalcy and what real life is like to not be under somebody else's thumb. And once you get comfortable with that, and once your fog clears, you get to thrive and you can kind of experiment and try new things out and not be so afraid. Not be afraid to fail, to be yourself, to test out your personality again, because believe it or not, your personality has changed. It's been suppressed. You have altered unconsciously your behavior and personality on the account of other people, and probably one other person specifically. Once you get that fear to lift and you can start being yourself again, then you can experiment and say things maybe you wouldn't always say for fear of retaliation by somebody else. Hey, you know what? Maybe it doesn't always go over well, but you live and you learn. You have to try. You can't live in fear. So that's another huge thing that's happened to me after being out of this relationship for 2 years now. My level of fear has dropped significantly, and I lived in a great state of fear for a long time, and I have been experimenting with doing things on my own, traveling on my own, making new friends, going to parties by myself with people that I don't know. Because you know what? What is the worst thing that's going to happen? You're able to talk yourself down, and you know what? If things are not great, you can just leave. You have your own 2 feet, you have your own mind, and once you get rid of the fear that holds you back, you're going to be astounded at the world that's in front of you. What you can do with your life and what you want to do. When you're with an abuser or a narcissist, 90% of what you do is guided by them. It might be subconsciously, but they're training you to let you know that you have to appease them at all times. And if you don't, you'll be punished. And the punishments can vary from a silent treatment to name calling to physical abuse. But either way, you're going to be punished. You're going to pay the price for having your own identity, your own mind, your own ambition. So you suppress that. Once that person is out of your life, once you are no contact and you're not afraid of that person anymore, all of that comes back to life. Now, it does take time. I would say you're going to need that first year just to kind of get back to normal. The second year is when you begin to thrive and you start having fun again, and that fear lifts. The first year, you're processing, you're understanding, you're reflecting, you're focusing a lot still on the past and on the narcissist or the abuser themselves. And you're pretty hard on yourself. You give yourself a guilt trip, wondering why you put up with so much. But once you get past that, and that's normal, you have to go through that. That's natural. I certainly did that myself. And that's part of the process. But there is an end to that process. If you're going through that stage right now and you're worried about, oh, I watch too many YouTube videos, I read too many books, I spend all this time on websites reading about narcissism and narcissists and narcissistic abuse, that's okay. You have to do that. That is understanding what has happened to you. But there is a time limit on that. It's natural. You don't have to put a time limit. You will just automatically start feeling better, start needing less support from the websites and the YouTubes. And you'll start looking forward. You'll start focusing on yourself. And that's when it gets fun, because you have no one else to worry about anymore. You get to be selfish. You get to live your own life for you. That's the fun part. Take a trip by yourself. Do something with your kids that your ex would have never let you do. Go somewhere, do something, spend some money, go on a shopping spree, join a gym, go for a walk, do whatever you want. That's the point. You are not under anyone else's thumb anymore. You get to live your own life. And I would say that's the biggest difference that I've had between year 1 and year 2 of being out of the relationship. The next substantial step that will happen once you're healed and recovered and have moved on is you'll start paying it forward. You'll start wanting to help others. And whether you start your own YouTube channel, or you have an Instagram page, or you go to a women's shelter, or you volunteer at a counseling center, there's tons of ways you can help, either in person or online. But you're going to want to let other people know that they're not alone in what they're going through. You can empathize, you can understand, you can listen to them, and you can hear what they're saying without them having to spell it out. And for them, that's going to mean so much. They're going to know that you understand, you're going to relate to them, and that, believe it or not, is still helping in your healing. So it's very rewarding when you can help other people, knowing that they know that you're relating to them. You're not just sitting there smiling and nodding like maybe a friend would, who is going to be sympathetic to you, but they're not going to, if they have not gone through it before, they can't understand it. You cannot understand this abuse, what it does to you, how you feel during, after, and out of it, unless you have gone through it. I don't care what you say or who you are. If you have not gone through it, you cannot understand it the way somebody who has gone through it can. So victims who are current victims or just newly coming out of the abuse, if you're already out of it, they're going to appreciate and value your ear, and maybe they don't even want your advice, but if you have some to offer, or at least you can share your story, and then they can do with that what they will, which is kind of what I do with you guys. I share my story, I share my observations. I don't really tell you guys what to do other than no contact, because that's the only way you can heal. And otherwise, I just share with you guys some things I did. Maybe they're going to work for you, maybe they won't. Everybody's circumstance is a little bit different. Everyone's situations allow for different ways to maneuver leaving an abuser. And you know what? You can pick and choose bits and pieces and do with them what you will. So 2 years no contact. I'm very, very proud. The sky's the limit. I will never need to have contact with him again, and that's fine. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. That's another thing that happens with time. Your anger really starts to subside. So guys, I just want this video to be a little bit of motivation for you guys. You can get through it, and the time flies. I can't believe it's been 2 years. It's mind-blowing how fast a year goes. So just take it day by day. If you're in the new beginning stages, don't try to think 2 years out, because that's going to seem impossible. You need to just take it 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time, and sometimes it's 1 minute at a time when you're in those really tough stages. And even if you do break no contact, whether that means you've talked to your ex or your abuser, maybe you've looked at their social media, maybe a friend has given you some information, that doesn't mean you have to throw in the towel. It just means you have to start again. So refresh, reset, start no contact again, and keep going. And every time you stumble, however big or small the stumble is, reset and start again. And just keep doing that till you do it. The longer you stay no contact, the easier it gets. This I promise you. Okay, guys, I hope that this video gives you some encouragement. I hope that you like my story, and I'd love to hear your stories below. So go ahead and comment and tell me how long you've been no contact for, any significant milestones you've had along the way, and yeah, just share your stories. I love to read them, and I read everything, even if I don't comment on them. I try to heart them and like them, and I definitely do read them. So go ahead and comment below. If you don't subscribe to my channel already, please go ahead and subscribe now. And don't forget, you guys can follow me at Narcaway on Instagram for daily posts of motivation and encouragement. I love you all, and I'll see you in my next video.